Hi everyone, Jason Hunt here, inviting you to join us every Saturday morning for news, the week's headlines in science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, plus Comic-Con updates and the weather, and the occasional interview along the way. We call it Good Morning Multiverse. We hope you join us every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, right here on Sci-Fi for Me TV.
Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content. Tune in and subscribe to Comic Talk with Pops Van Zandt on YouTube.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to witness the Masters. Austin, welcome to the show, sir. How you doing today?
Thanks, RJ. I'm doing great, man. I'm here.
You know, that's the best I can ask for. It's like, I'm awake again. What a wonderful surprise. Oh, this is, it feels like it's been a long time since the Masters #1, and I know it hasn't been because I was sitting here talking about it. I haven't been here that long, but how did you get the success you wanted with Masters 1?
Yeah, absolutely, we did. Kickstarter for the first issue, we raised over $28,000, and you know, it was so good. We had some hiccups, some personal things happen along the way with some folks. So we didn't get it printed as soon as we wanted to. So it came out probably about 6 to 8 weeks ago. with the 2 variant covers, one from Stephen Butler, one from Bart Sears. And we have so much done on issues 2, 3, 4, and 5 that we decided to, instead of doing a Kickstarter per issue, we decided what we're going to do is do a Kickstarter for 2 issues. So this Kickstarter we have going now is for issues 2 and 3, and we're going to immediately follow that up with issues 4 and 5, and then run one final Kickstarter to do trade paperback, trade hardcover, some extra fun things like a Who's Who book, a treasury edition,
yes.
treasury edition style book of the final issue. We're also working on doing a calendar for 2024. We're like a wall calendar similar to the ones they did in the 70s for Marvel and DC.
I remember.
And the creme de la creme, the piece de resistance, as they would say, is going to be a audio version of issue number 5 pressed on vinyl.
Okay. I'm going to take this overlay off here because it feels like we're squished in this one, but this goes back to the name of your company, Power Comics, because
correct.
I remember you telling me that a lot of this was inspired by, and you take a lot of inspiration from the Power Records, which used to put comic book stories on vinyl, and you would kind of listen to it and read along.
That is correct. That is correct.
I wouldn't even know where to look to find somebody to make a vinyl pressing.
Well, luckily I have friends in the music business, and I also have friends who are in the voice acting business.
You're ready to go on both counts then? Yeah.
I'm ready to go on both counts. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I've already have the cover for the record done. It was done by the incomparable, talented Chuck Patton, who needs no introduction. He did some amazing work on this album cover. He took an old Power Records Batman album and recreated it with with our main protagonist, Black Owl, and all of the masters surrounding him.
I remember that album.
Yeah.
I had some of those. I had the Wonder Woman one, I know for sure, because I was 13 and I was tracing, and I didn't trace everything. And I got,
right.
The picture was found.
So, understood.
But you're talking the full 33 1/3.
Correct.
Size.
That's the plan. I mean, knock on wood, everything will go well. You know what I'm going to do? I'm on YouTube right now over my other screen. I'm going to search for that record. I'm pretty sure they have it on here to listen to. I could send you the link real quick if I can find it.
I'd love to listen to it again.
There it is. Hold on a second here. Oh, let me make sure I mute my computer. But here, I'm going to send you this via Messenger. You want it Messenger or Messenger on here? Private chat.
Private chat be faster here.
You got it.
It's you're going to have a whole bunch of comics fans. Well, okay, never mind. I was going to say you're going to have a whole bunch of young comics readers who are going to have to go out and buy a phonograph player now to listen to this.
Well,
but the market you've got is the Silver Age audience.
Correct. Yeah, the Silver and Bronze Age audience, men and women who are our age, who grew up with this stuff. When we go over the Kickstarter tonight on your show, there's going to be things on there that you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I remember having that in 1975 or 1978 or 1983 or whatever it might be. So that's a good thing. Like I said the last time I was on, this is my love letter to the Bronze Age of comics.
Well, it's you know what? It'll be easier for me to show it, won't it? Because this is the kind of artwork you're going to get out of this, because you went back to the to a lot of the Bronze and Silver Age artists who are being underutilized by the market today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to understand that when the Silver and Bronze Age artists were, young and just starting out and getting their feet wet, in the 70s and 80s, the talent pool for artists back then was, very small. Now we're 45, 50 years later. We've had 45 or 50 more years of future artists being born. And now that talent pool is huge. So, and the big companies are always looking for the next big thing. And I totally understand that, because it's that way in every industry. It's that way with music. It's that way with automobiles. I mean, look at how cars have changed over the years. They're looking for the next big thing. So they do the same with artists with comic books. I just personally have a fondness for the style that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't appreciate the new styles or the current styles or, whatever. I just like what I like.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. The 70s and 80s comic books. I know there's a lot of nostalgia right now for the 90s. I don't have that. I don't have the 90s nostalgia.
Yeah, neither do I.
That was when comic books started to kind of go downhill for me.
Yeah, I would agree. And again, you know what? In the 90s, I was, getting out of college. I graduated in 1990 from college. I was more concerned about, okay, well, what is my career? I'm settling down. I'm getting married. I'm having children. It was about 10 years after I graduated college that I got back into comic books. And it was when I walked into a comic book store in Champaign, Illinois, home of the University of Illinois. I was down there passing through, some kind of business trip I was on. And on the rack in the comic book store was a Daredevil written by Kevin Smith and drawn by Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti. And it caught my attention. Next thing I knew, I was reading comic books again. And I've had the pleasure of introducing myself to all three of those guys in the past couple of years and letting them know just how important their Daredevil work was, getting me back into comics. And now I'm writing my own. I had an encounter with Kevin Smith at Fan Expo here in Chicago back in July, I think it was. And when I told him that story, he ended up talking to me for 10 minutes.
Wow.
It was amazing, and took a bunch of pictures with me. And I met Jimmy Palmiotti first. I met him about 3 or 4 years ago in Cincinnati and told him what was going on. And he, the nicest guy in the world. And now, even though he doesn't really, do any artistic stuff anymore, he's still writing and editing and making comic books. But he agreed to ink a couple of pages for issue number 5 for me. One page by Tom Grummett and another page by a guy that he worked with quite a bit, I think on the Harley Quinn series, Stefan Rue.
Yeah, I know all these people.
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
Of course you do.
I got 25 long boxes sitting in a corner of my basement. So
you got knowledge.
Is that what it's called now?
You got knowledge.
Knowledge. If it won't make me money or advance my career, I know it.
Right.
So the title of the book is The Masters. That is not the hero team.
No, man.
It's actually the villains.
Correct. They're all master artists. They're masters of their craft. They're master artists and they're master thieves. And their art is their power. Magic paint and a magic camera and stuff like that. So, all inspired from my favorite artists of the 20th century. And the reason I named the series after the villains was because I believe that if we named all of our superhero films after the bad guy, they'd be a lot easier to remember. Like Spider-Man 1, we should have called the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man 2, Doc Ock. Right? The Dark Knight Rises, we should have called the Joker. So, if you remember, originally and scattered throughout history, James Bond movies and books were all named after the bad guys. Dr. No,
Goldfinger.
One of the most recent ones was named after one of the bad guys as well. I forget. But, that's pretty much how the man with the golden gun.
It lets you remember who he was fighting in
Correct. James Bond is in it. I know Spider-Man's in a Spider-Man movie and Superman's in a Superman movie. Call the movie Lex Luthor.
Yeah, especially when there's been that many James Bonds. It's like, who did he fight in James Bond 14? We didn't call it James Bond 14.
We did not. We called it the title of the book.
So let me this is the one of the alternate covers, cover B for the Masters.
Correct.
And now who's drawing this?
Tom Morgan drew that cover, and it is an homage to that.
Yeah.
So that cover is that's not a cover. That's actually a Whitman jigsaw puzzle from 1978. And the artist on that was Ron Wilson, who has also contributed to a bunch of stuff on the Masters. So it was funny because we were going round and round in our little chat group, me and all the artists on the Masters team, trying to figure out who did the jigsaw puzzle. And finally, Tom Morgan said, I really think that's Ron. And of course, Ron emailed and said, oh yeah, that's mine. I remember doing that. How cool is that?
He's on the team. So
right.
He really should have been the one who did the cover.
He should have been, but he didn't chime in soon enough to tell me that he did the cover. So
it's very cool. Now, of course, Black Owl's leading with his fist.
Of course.
Spider-Man's a kicker and a swinger.
Right.
He's a swinger. So what do the monsters, the Universal monsters here have to do with the story? Do they have anything to do with the story?
Well, this is how we played these guys, okay? The first issue was all bad guys. There was, we only let the reader see the faces of who the heroes were going to be in the story. Because in the final couple of pages, the leader of the Masters was instructing the Masters as to, these are the places you're going to go and rob for me. And you're probably going to encounter some superheroes along the way. And here they are. Well, because the first issue was so villain-laden, I felt compelled that the first 8 pages of the second issue be 100% the Black Owl. Let's introduce the Black Owl. Let's have him kicking butt and taking names in a bar fight or something. Almost like the introductory scene in Ben Affleck's Daredevil, where he's up in the rafters.
Yeah.
And he comes down and just lays waste to everybody. And I thought, we're doing this public domain golden age hero, reimagination. Why don't I go back in time and pluck some of Black Owl's villains from the early 40s? And some of the villains back then were, these simple Wolfman, Mummy, Frankenstein, vampire type of guys. And I was like, wow, we could reimagine these guys. The vampire guy wasn't originally a vampire, but since he's in the public domain, I thought I would take some creative liberties and reintroduce him as a vampire. And Tom Morgan came up with the idea, is like, hey, why don't we have the Laughing Head as his name? We'll go with your idea and have him as a vampire, but he'll also have this like mystical medallion where he can summon Frankenstein's monster and the Wolfman and the Mummy and blah, 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 blah. And it's 8 pages just filled with action, man. It's absolutely amazing. Tom hasn't done interior art for a comic book in 20 or 25 years. He's been working at Disney for a long time.
I'm sorry.
And
right. Good one.
And he loves it, but he did Captain America at Marvel. I mean, he was with Marvel for a good amount of time. Disney steals him away to do all kinds of animation, storyboards, creative stuff. And I present him with an opportunity to have 8 interior pages, not too much, not too little, because he's a busy guy, and a cover, and he gets free reign to recreate these 4 icons of horror. And that's what we did. And the reason why the other reason why we took these guys was because we started thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we could spin these guys off in some way into some kind of a horror comic book? Because when the Masters is over, we want to do other things.
Yeah.
So our first thought was, we've got 4 horror villains, and we also have a guy in the Masters who is best friends with the Black Owl, who's a newspaper reporter at the local newspaper. And I was thinking, why can't we, in the spirit of Kolchak the Night Stalker, do some kind of a comic book where we have the newspaper reporter who nobody believes he's, the vampire is doing it. Nobody believes him when he says, he sees Frankenstein's monster or Jack the Ripper or whatever. So me and my creative team, we've been toying with the idea of doing, let's start out with 4 issues of this comic book, and we'll have him encounter in order, Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and then in issue 4, it culminates with the guy who's behind the whole thing, the Laughing Head, who we've turned into a vampire.
Speaking of culminating with the guy behind everything, last time we talked, I bribed and cajoled and did everything I could to get the name of the guy behind the Masters, and never came out. Is that a issue 5 reveal?
That's an issue 5 reveal. And the guy who's going to be doing that issue 5 reveal is none other than Bart Sears. So the artists, the 5 artists who I put together for issue 5 are Bob Hall. This is in order. Bob Hall, he takes us to the Black Owl's bat cave, so to speak, called the Owl's Nest, where he and the other heroes meet. And he tells them, I think I've got this thing figured out. Then we go to the hideout of the Masters, where Black Owl confronts who he thinks is behind it all. And Bart Sears is responsible for those 7 or 8 pages. Then the reveal happens, and Tom Grummett is responsible for the next 12 or 13 or 14 pages of the fight scene between all of the Masters and all of our heroes. And then after the reveal, of course, and the fight scene, we have to have a double cross. So the double cross pages are all done by my good friend Stefan Roux. And then the epilogue, the final page, just 1 page I was able to get this guy to do, and I'm so excited. I just got it back from Joe Rubenstein. Joe Rubenstein inked him. The final page is Butch Geiss.
It's like I'm walking into DC and Marvel again. You've thrown me into a time machine.
Yeah. So we go from Hall to Sears to Grummett to Roux to Geiss. So we've got Rubenstein inking Geiss. Doug Hazelwood is inking Tom Grummett. I believe Doug and Tom did a bunch of stuff on Superman back in the day.
They did.
So they are producing some amazing pages, all of these guys. I mean, they're wonderful to work with. They're so talented. Every day I wake up and there's something new in my inbox. Something's colored or something's inked or something's rough sketched. It's like candy.
Yeah. It's I just got art right now. Right before we started the show, and I'm like, I have to write back on this, but I don't have time because the show's starting for a comic story I'm doing with a Golden Age public domain character, by the way. And
nice.
I have not seen him in your roster, so I don't think it's I don't think we'll have any. Well, they're public domain. We wouldn't have conflict anyway.
Maybe I need to interview you.
Oh, not yet.
Right.
I'm in somebody else's comic book. It's an anthology.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, yeah, I'll play. Oh, I got to pay an artist. Oh, I got to pay a colorist. This is expensive business all of a sudden.
It is expensive business, man.
Now,
it is. My goal, my hope, I hope to God, God willing, I raise enough money to make sure that I get everything paid off that I need to.
Yeah, my friend Michael Tierney says the way to guarantee you make $1 million in comics is easy. You just have to spend $2 million.
Correct.
To make it happen.
Correct. Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
Because you got so many people doing this, it produces the book faster because you're not having one person doing everything sequentially. You got parallel processes going on, as we say in the computer.
Correct. And that's why we're able to get basically 4 issues done in the period of time that we're getting them done and getting them out. So you like that idea for the reporter monster thing?
I do. I loved Kolchak the Night Stalker. That's a DVD set that I really need to add to my collection.
Yeah, you know what? My memory of that TV show is a lot better than what it really is. I've tried rewatching those episodes, and they're hard to watch.
I've had shows like that. Most of them were Sid and Marty Krofft things. I used to love Bugaloos as a child.
Right.
What was I smoking?
Yeah, that's right. Well, think about it. I mean, I'm 53. My oldest son is about to be 28. If we sat him down to watch Barney or Teletubbies right now, he'd be like, "What the heck is this stuff?"
Yeah, it's better in our minds. It's better in our memories sometimes.
I tell you what's really difficult to watch is that 1995 X-Men animated series.
Oh yeah.
I think it's unwatchable. And, there's this big hullabaloo about they're coming back with it on, what's it going to be, on Disney Plus or something?
I think it is. I keep hearing about it, but I don't see anything done.
Yeah, listen, man, I tried watching the, it was like a 5-episode or a 6-episode saga. I forget which one it was. And it was just terrible. I was like, wow, I forced myself to finish the 5 or 6 episodes. And then I just put the DVDs away. I haven't looked at them in like 3 years.
Yeah. Now, what I did like was that came out around that time. I want to say it was around that time. Was the Hulk animated series that they did?
Yeah. Did you like that one?
I did like that one. I can't remember why. I just remember liking it.
Well, at the time, I liked all of them, and I'm wondering if I liked them all because I had small children, small boys at the time. My youngest was born in 94. My middle son was born in 97, and my youngest was born in 2001. So, hey, I was just eating up all the superhero stuff. And then, I haven't watched that stuff in 15 years. You pull it out and you're like, whoa, what is this?
Yeah, we forgive things like Spider-Man 67 because, it was 67.
Correct.
And they were short. It was like, I can get through this. It's only 10 minutes.
Right. I forgive everything from like 89 and prior. Challenge of the Super Friends. I still love it. It's terrible, but I love it.
It is terrible.
It is. It's awful.
But that was Challenge of the Super Friends was our first exposure to live action Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman,
right,
Black Canary, and Huntress.
And it introduced us to the United Nations of superheroes, right? Apache Chief, Samurai, Black Vulcan was in it. Then they threw the Golden El Dorado came a little bit later.
Yeah, now you're talking about the animated series, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
you're thinking of the live action TV show.
Yes, Challenge of the Superheroes.
Oh, that's just abysmal.
It was just abysmal.
That's unwatchable.
But it was Adam West and Burt Ward.
That's unwatchable.
I've got it on DVD somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere, right?
It's worth it for what it is.
Yeah.
And I think it just kept getting more abysmal because it had the special features for the Wonder Woman pilot that William Dozier was going to do. Never saw the light of day.
Right.
Yeah. If you've never seen it, folks, you've got to look it up. It's it's interesting.
So
the thing I like about this team you've got is that they're used to working together. So I don't foresee, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't foresee the a jarring difference when you turn a page and another guy's taking over. Because these guys know how to work for a house.
There won't be a jarring difference. No, they all have their distinct style, and to the trained eye, you're going to turn a page from Bob Hall to Bart Sears and know that's, it's somebody else doing it. And most people who are collecting these are going to know it's Bob Hall to Bart Sears, and Bart Sears to Tom Grummett and so on and so forth.
Yeah. It's not going to be like you turning a page from Jack Kirby to Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yeah.
Because that would be jarring.
That would be jarring.
This is the bar scene you were describing. The vampire is ordering people out.
That's correct. That's the opening page of issue 2, where we first meet the Black Owl.
Because we haven't met any of them yet. We were just meeting the villains.
Right.
Oh man, look at this!
You like that?
I'm freaking loving that.
Yeah.
It's like I want that in an 11 by 17 on my wall. And that's pieces of a butterfly.
Right. So in this page, if you could go to the top of the page, you could see Black Owl and his partner for this chapter, Arrow, are coming out of a painting that was created by Surreal Ordeal. Now, he has magic paint that whatever he paints becomes a portal to another world that he paints. Now, this villain, Surreal Ordeal, was inspired by Salvador Dali. So
looks like him.
Right. So everything that is created by him looks very Dali-esque, very surreal. Well, he whirled his paintbrush in the air and created this giant butterfly to encapsulate the Black Owl's fiancée, Terry Dane, who's laying there on the floor. So Surreal Ordeal's got to make his getaway, so he needs a distraction. And what better distraction than a giant butterfly to put a cocoon around your girlfriend? So they've got to get rid of that thing. And of course, it distracts them enough that Surreal Ordeal makes his escape with the painting he was stealing.
And this is done by Greg LaRocque and Joe Rubinstein.
Greg LaRocque, it's pronounced LaRocque.
LaRocque, thank you.
And Joe Rubinstein did the inks on this. Greg did the pencils, and it was colored by David Ocampo.
Right. You got a dream team for every page of this book.
Yeah, it's been pretty great. It's been pretty great.
And this is because there are 2 books, we're actually seeing cover 3 here.
There are 2 books, right? You're seeing cover A of issue 3. Now that's Ron Wilson and Joe Rubinstein with Mort Todd on the colors.
And who are the characters here with obviously Black Owl, but
Black Owl, that's Airman.
Oh yeah, okay.
Ron Wilson reimagined him for this series, and the villain is the Clerk. The Clerk has the ability to replicate himself. That's why you see 4 of them.
Now, I know the painting.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the artist.
Rene Magritte.
It was Magritte. Okay. Every time I think Magritte, I think of the pipe.
Correct. This is not a pipe.
Right.
I think that
the treachery of images.
I think that painting was called Golconda. But I will double check.
I thought it was called The Treachery of Images. The pipe was. The pipe was called The Treachery of Images.
Let me see. Hold on. The pipe. This is not a pipe. Most famous painting. Blah, 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 blah. Why don't I see the name? But the guy with the apple is allegedly, I'm sorry, Golconda is, I had my paintings mixed up. Golconda is the one where the guys who look like the Clerk but without the apple are like raining down on a town.
Oh, okay.
The Clerk, that was a self-portrait, and let me look up the name of that. Rene Magritte. Now this is funny. Apple's pipe bowler hat. I don't see the name for this, but again, allegedly this was a self portrait of Magritte in his bowler hat and his suit, his overcoat, and he put an apple in front of his face.
The Son of
And
Man.
it's such an iconic image.
Yeah, it's called the Son of Man.
It's called the Son of Man. I can't believe I forgot that. I got so much stuff going on in my head, RJ. It's mush.
How did you come up with the power for the clerk to be this sort of a multiple man Jamie Madrox kind of character? Because, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I'm asking. Because I would think that would be a perfect power for your Andy Warhol master. Because, he did the 4 colors of soup cans, the 4 colors of people's faces. So I could say, oh, look, you split into 4 and they'd be 4 different colors.
That would be good if I had an Andy Warhol master. That would be great. Maybe that'll be the Masters 2.
There you go. There's always for every Justice League, there's a Teen Titans.
Right. So the reason why I came up with the multiplicity or the replication power is because I combined the Golconda image of all of them raining down with the guy with the apple. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just let him duplicate himself? Because I think that was what Magritte was trying to say about Golconda, is that we're all, either he was trying to say we're all as individual as raindrops, or we all are just the same as raindrops. So I thought the duplication thing would be great. Keep the apples on their faces, and maybe, just maybe, not only will it rain down men, but it might rain down apples in this issue too.
Golconda looks like it would be a Pink Floyd album. And it looks like a Pink Floyd album cover.
We're just 2 lost souls.
Yeah, I think they actually stole from. I think they actually stole from Magritte for that picture where the guy's on fire.
Wish you were here.
Yeah, that seems very Magritte-esque. Then over here, graffiti.
Yeah, this is a wonderful cover by somebody who's been wonderful to work with, Mike Vosberg. He originally did a cover for ISIS back in the 70s, and it was a villain where graffiti is standing in a similar position. His name was Serpenotep, and he would conjure up this giant snake, and where Black Owl is standing, ISIS was standing there chained up. I think it was ISIS number 7. I'll send you an image of it real quick. And, he took that image and can I send stuff on the chat, like images?
It doesn't work that way, but
I'll send it to Facebook.
Not a problem. I've already got it.
Oh, you found it?
I have Google too.
Oh, well. Yeah, there it is.
That's the one.
So Mike Vosberg did that back in the 70s. So I was able to get the original artist to make an homage to himself. How about that?
Cool. That's very cool.
How about that?
I love homage covers.
Yeah, me too. I really do. I really do. So graffiti is a wonderful character. We're thinking about taking him and giving him his own title as well, because he isn't necessarily a villain. I take him as more of an anti-hero, kind of a victim of circumstance, who is running from the government, similar to the way that Bruce Banner and the Hulk run from the government.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, saw some things that he shouldn't have, and now the government is after him. And the government's the ones that are responsible for his body looking that way and giving him the powers that he has. So,
and that power seems to be bringing things to life as well.
Yeah, very like a symbiotic relationship between himself and the magic paints of Surreal Ordeal, which were in a freak accident fused to his body. Oh. So now, instead of painting these kind of characters, all he has to do is grab a hold of the paint on his body and fling it out, and it becomes whatever he thinks.
It's kind of like the Tattooed Man.
Kind of like the Tattooed Man, right?
Nobody knows who that is.
Nobody but you and me.
That was a great Green Lantern villain who had no costume, just his tattoos.
It really was. Yeah. I think they gave him a cape once in a while, but I'm not 100% on that.
You've got to, if you're the tattooed man and your power is to touch a tattoo and it comes to life and attacks, you pretty much got to run around in a pair of boxer shorts.
Or less.
Yeah. Because you just can't get to the tattoo otherwise.
Right. Right.
Now, I know that you went to the Golden Age to pull characters that were public domain,
right,
to make this team. I noticed it's a bit of a sausage fest.
Yeah.
You didn't find any female villains or heroes to put in here yet.
No. Are you trying to insinuate something?
No. I'm just asking because I liked those characters. They had great costumes. They looked awesome.
Correct.
They looked beautiful.
Yeah, and I like them as well. So the way the thought process went was this story. First of all, I chose my five of my favorite artists that I thought would lend themselves to be visually stimulating for the reader. So, I had Warhol on that list. I had Pollock on the list. I had Georgia O'Keeffe on the list. And I'm just going through the list.
I'm not going there.
What?
I'm not even going to speculate what Georgia O'Keeffe's power would have been.
Right. She could have been the power of the flower.
Yes.
So I'm going down the list and I'm like, okay, who's going to look, stimulating to the reader? Who's going to have a cool costume or a cool power? And, there were things I could do with, all of these different people. Picasso could have looked like a cube face. Andy Warhol, like you said, we could have replicated him and done something with Campbell's soup. I don't know. Georgia O'Keeffe could have been like Poison Ivy. But the ones that I chose weren't chosen because they were male. They were chosen because they were the ones that were the best when it came to the story.
Sure.
Keith Haring is a homosexual. So, nobody's out there saying, hey, thanks for putting a homosexual in the comic book. Well, he's not a homosexual in the comic book, right? So I look at this and say, yeah, this is a great post that I made today. Keith Haring is one of my all-time favorite artists.
And he's the inspiration behind graffiti here. Right.
His style is so his own. When you see it, it's him. And the character was born out of an image. I don't know if you can scroll down that page and see my post, but it's born out of an image. There it is. It's born out of an image right there where he was doing a photo shoot of that room. Okay. And it was for Annie Leibovitz of Rolling Stone. And she convinced him to paint himself the same way as the room as a form of camouflage art. And of course, he's like, sure. So boom, next thing you know, she's shooting him like that. That image has been ingrained in my head since like 1983 or 84 when it came out. I had an opportunity to create a villain with that look and make him, and eventually we want to evolve him in more of an anti-hero, like a guy who you're sympathetic to, kind of like Bruce Banner as Bill Bixby, they'd be walking the earth, right?
Yeah. And, unlike his post here, you didn't go the full Dr. Manhattan on him. So you used a Mego figure to model him because you're huge in the Mego action figure community.
That is correct. I am big in the Mego community. Kind of like being a big fish in a little pond. I have made my own custom Mego action figures for the better part of the last 25 years. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I founded the Custom Mego Hall of Fame. So if you want to go find Custom Mego Hall of Fame on Facebook, you'll find our group. You're welcome to join and see all of the amazing talent that is in it. But, again, getting back to like the heroes. So I originally wrote this story as a Brave and the Bold story where Batman was the lead And in every encounter with the villain, there would be a guest hero. So I came up with Batman, of course, and then I came up with Green Arrow, Red Tornado, Hawkman, Elongated Man, and Ant-Man. The reason why I came up with those 5 had everything to do. Go ahead.
They'd never let you do Ant-Man because he's Marvel.
I'm sorry, the Atom. Right, the Atom. So the reason why I came up with those 5 is because those were 5 of my favorite Brave and the Bold comic book partnerships with Batman when I was a kid. Had nothing to do with, I didn't want Black Canary or Supergirl or whatever. It had everything to do with my fondness of my childhood. So my whole idea was I was going to pitch this to DC. I was going to pitch this as a story. I was going to write the story. I had a couple of artist connections there. They were going to introduce me to Dan DiDio and let me make my pitch. They weren't going to endorse me or anything. That, hey, you know what? We've got this friend. We want to introduce you. I was going to meet him at C2E2 in like 2020. And of course, 2 weeks after that, Mr. DiDio was no longer at DC.
Yeah. Things began to happen.
Say that again?
Things began to happen at DC, and then things began to happen around the world. You couldn't even get to the conventions to meet people.
That's correct.
So,
and that's when I decided, okay, I need to take my heroes. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to self-publish. I incorporated Power Comics. I picked everybody's brain that I knew in the business, and I started replacing, my DC chosen heroes with Golden Age heroes. I called up a buddy.
All had analogs.
I'm sorry?
They all had analogs.
They all had analogs.
You here's a guy who's exactly like Hawkman. Here's a guy who's exactly like Plastic or Elongated Man.
That's right. I called them superhero counterparts or comic book counterparts. You have like Arrow. From what I read and researched, he was the very first Archer superhero. But that's why I don't have any women. And what's interesting is that the fiance of the Black Owl, her name is Terry Dane. What we're looking at doing with her is giving her her own issues, like a detective story. And because of what happens to her at the museum with Surreal Ordeal and the butterfly and kind of being helpless, she decides that she's not going to let that happen to her again. So she starts training, and we're going to convert her into a superheroine eventually and give her a masked identity from the Golden Age as well. And, I think that should be little sexual tension between her and Black Owl, especially if he doesn't recognize who she is right away.
Yeah. Does she know who he is?
Oh yeah, they're engaged.
Okay, well then he's done the right thing.
Right.
When DC started doing animated movies and they did Superman Doomsday, their very first one.
Right.
I hated it because they showed that Superman was sleeping with Lois Lane in the Fortress of Solitude, and she didn't know he was Clark Kent. I'm like, oh, you rat bastard.
Oh, come on.
You don't take that step without taking that other step first.
Man, I got to go back and watch that one. I think I missed it.
Yeah, it bothered me because she didn't know he was Clark until
it should bother you.
Doomsday.
Yeah, it should bother all of us. But that's what we're looking at doing with Terry Dane, because there's so much room for growth with this universe, for characters of every persuasion. So we're really excited about what we have on the table and on the drawing board. We just need to get to that point.
Well, you got several different ways for people to get in on this. Here are all the tiers. $10 for digital if you want digital. I know there are people who have to have digital just because they don't have the room. George, Robert, looking at you guys. But then, I'm of the persuasion I have to have it in my hands. Now, for $20 to get issue 2 and 3 in print, that's a steal. how big are these books? I mean, if I say they're a steal and you say they're 5 pages long, then I'm lying. They're bigger than that.
They're 44 pages each.
Oh, geez, double-sized issues.
The story is 28 pages. Each issue has 4 pages of who's who entries. There is an old Marvel Fun and Games style maze that my good friend Joe Woes from Maze Tunes has put together. There's a parody hostess ad in every issue. Those were all created by Mort Todd. And then there's all kinds of advertising for other friends of mine who have Kickstarters and crowdfunding things, publish their own books, their own comic books, Kickstarters, you name it. And then the back cover is our homage to the old Mego Heroes World store ads, the Hero World from New Jersey. They would always do those comic books filled with, hey, order your Megos and your posters and your Iron-Ons and your Treasury editions. So we took the Mego ad, and my good friend Art Baltazar redesigned it in his style, and we did it for our friends at Figures Toy Company down in Tampa, Florida, who have the licensing for DC, among other licenses. So he did a whole DC superhero Mego style Figures Toy Company ad, and at the bottom he put all of action figures of the Masters. So and of course we offer action figures. I make the custom action figures for the people who order them.
That action figures and they're custom. That's I've seen a few people do that. That's an awesome thing to have.
Yeah.
You want to be a true collector of and well, okay, first of all, it's an awesome thing to have if it's a really cool book, and this is a really cool book, so I'm comfortable saying that.
Thank you.
Now you've got the Masters Trade and Digital already available, and
well, it's available for future purchase.
Okay, this is like a reserve your copy.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, yeah,
and we have it
after final campaign.
Right. We have it, because we have to come out with the first 5 issues before we come out with the trade. And we're going to have, there's a big announcement coming up soon about who's doing that cover. Excuse me.
I know that's not the final cover. That's but I've seen that cover. You've shown that somewhere before.
I have. That's going to be the cover for the Treasury edition. So what we did was we did an homage to the cover for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, knew it looked familiar.
Stefan Rue is doing that cover, and in the tradition of the Treasury edition, the special collector's editions, there will be a back cover as well. And
those were big.
What?
Those were big.
Yeah, they were.
Tabloid size things.
Correct. So we're going to do that just for the final issue, for issue 5. And on the front cover are going to be all of the villains, all of the masters, standing in front of paintings that are associated with the artist that inspired them. On the back cover, everything will be the same. All of the paintings will be in the same place. All the poses will be the same, but the villains will be replaced with the heroes.
Okay.
And I got that idea because back in the 70s, DC did a special collector's edition where the Justice League of America was on the front and the Justice Society was on the back in the same exact poses. It's the most iconic pose that the JLA or the JSA has ever done. Superman's flying out on top. You've got Wonder Woman and Hawkman, to 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock, Green Lantern and Aquaman at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, Batman and Green Arrow and the Flash on the bottom. And they did the same picture, the same image on the back, but just with Dr. Midnight instead of Green Arrow and Golden Age Hawkman instead of Silver Age Hawkman and so forth.
Yep. I think I've seen those images.
How cool would that be? The villains on the front and the good guys on the back.
I've got both of the 3-ring binders that they put out for the DC Who's Who, the Brian Bolland one, and I can't remember if I think it was George Perez did the other one. and they've got something like that, but it's on the front you've got the heroes charging at you, and then when you go to the back of the 3-ring binder, it's the villains of those heroes, but you see them from behind because they're running away.
Right. That's very cool.
$60 to get to reserve your soft cover, $75 for the hardcover. Durable. Have you thought about whether it's going to be like dust jacketed, or are you going to be like laminated right on the?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be dust jacketed. And the nice thing about the trade paperback and the hardcover is that everything's going to be in there. So it's going to be all of the pages, all the interior pages of the story, all the Who's Who pages, all of the variant covers, all of the hostess ads, all of the mazes, all of the biographies of all the artists, of course, all of the pages, thanking all of the backers and all of the, tributes and stuff like that. So it's going to be loaded.
You've got a retailer tier here, 25 copies of each one, 2 and 3 for $200.
That's right.
That's a very good deal because you're going to resell. If you've got a comic shop, I guarantee you're running into the same problem regularly where people are like, they don't make comics like they used to. Give them comics like they used to see, and you will sell these comics.
Right.
And then this is like too much stuff to put in this box. See the description over here. So that's $2,000 all in. Okay.
Everything.
Take 4 car payments from me here. Tell me what I'm getting for this.
I mean, you're getting everything. Everything that has been listed on Kickstarter 1, 2, and 3. So you're getting all 10 issues of the comic book. You're getting all the action figures. You're getting all of the posters. You're getting all of the, we're doing a puzzle. If you keep going, we're doing a Ben Cooper style Halloween mask.
Look, we're getting original art in this, folks. You're seeing options for that.
There's a ton of original art. I mean, there's the Bart Sears cover.
There's your Justice League #1.
Right.
Justice League #1 cover.
Yep. Justice League Europe #1 and Justice League #1, right?
Oh, he did it multiple times.
Well, I think Kevin Maguire did the Justice League with Guy Gardner on the cover. And then they homaged it with Justice League Europe #1 with the Flash, Metamorpho, Wonder Woman.
Yep. And then when they did Justice League International, it was the same pose, but with more characters. And I think Guy Gardner was like, who invited these people in?
Who invited these people? Right.
It was getting crowded. This was the cover for #1, right?
Right. That and the Bart Sears one above it. Those were the 2 options. That was the amazing, talented Stephen Butler doing his homage to Jim Aparo. And, Jim Aparo's Brave and the Bold was really the inspiration for this whole story. As I said earlier, my whole idea was to have Batman and a guest hero fight a villain. And they lose every time. But at the end, they figure out what they're doing wrong. There's a big battle royal and they win.
Man, you are bringing out the feels, man. Okay, first of all, Brave and Bold, one of my all-time favorite books because it was one and done. You read the story and something, either it was over or it was over with that hero and it was going to carry over to another hero next time.
Right.
But Brave and Bold did this really cool thing with Aparo and whoever was writing it at the time. You didn't have Previews magazine.
Right.
You didn't have the stuff telling you what was coming next issue, let alone 3 issues down the way.
Correct.
They would hide a clue in the story,
right,
as to who was going to be in the next book.
Right.
And if you found it, you'd say, next issue, it's the Creeper. I saw his shadow on the side of the building there.
Correct. That's exactly right.
But when you talk about they keep losing, there was a backup for a while in Brave and Bold, where different heroes were fighting this new villain that they'd introduced called the Calculator.
Yes.
And they would lose, but they would eventually win and catch the Calculator. And and every story you saw it ending, you're like, okay, now I'm immune to you. And you're like, oh, this guy's just ramping up the power every story. We're building up to a really big possible showdown here. which we finally got. But it was a battle hard fought by the heroes to beat this guy who was immune to their powers.
The writer who wrote most of the Brave and the Bold in the 70s was Bob Haney.
Yeah.
I had to look that up. I forgot his name. I kept wanting to say Denny O'Neil, and I knew that was wrong.
Yeah, I loved his. Bob Haney is my favorite for the work he did on Teen Titans with Nick Cardy. That was my primal comic, I guess you'd say.
Right, understood.
All this original art is available here. If you loved what these guys did before, you're going to love what they're doing now.
And if you take a look at these next three, this is Joe Staton recreating a Black Owl cover from 1940. I believe this is our homage to Prize Comics number 3, which could have been called the Black Owl number 3. Did an amazing job. The next is Ramona Fradon doing an homage to her own Plastic Man cover from 1978. I think that's Plastic Man number 11 or 13. I got to look that up real quick. My memory isn't as good as it used to be.
I think you're right with 11.
Yeah, 11. And you know, getting a 94-year-old human being to redo what they did, you know, some 45 years ago is pretty freaking awesome.
She's 94 and did this?
She's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
She's unbelievable.
That I don't know if I told you this story last time you were on or not, but it reminds me of a con I went to in 88 or 89. It was the Batman movie year, so it was around that time.
89.
And DC was putting out the Justice Society as another miniseries, relaunching it as a comic.
Right.
And I'm going down this hallway, and I get shunted into this little room to the side because at the Comic-Con's end, there were all these little rooms. You don't know what's in there. You can be surprised. Wasn't much of a crowd. I was tired of being elbowed around. And I go in, and I turn right around in the door, and sitting right there inside the doorway is this elderly couple and this huge canvas painting of Alan Scott Green Lantern. Yep. And I'm like, my favorite Green Lantern. And I look down, and there's the nameplate Sheldon Moldoff.
Yep.
And like, I didn't say it, but I'm like, you're still alive. But
why did they stick you in this little room?
Yeah, it was. It's just this little room with a couple of tables behind me, people looking at like carvings and stuff. It was like an artist room. And I had my greatest Batman stories ever told, my greatest Joker stories ever told, in which he had work. So he signed both of them. And I asked him, I was like, you're still doing art and they're doing a Justice Society comic. Why aren't you drawing it? And I'll never forget his wife just leaned into me and she said, would you go tell DC that, please?
Yeah.
Because he still wanted to work.
Right.
He's an
That's
artist.
An awesome story. I do remember you telling me that. And it's like, what is this guy doing in this little room?
Yeah. Should have been guest of honor.
Oh, guest of honor. Right. They should have been carrying him in on their shoulders.
Well, no appreciation for the Giants.
And that's Mike Grell.
Oh my God. It is Mike Grell.
So he took an Airman cover. Airman was on 2 covers. They were never called Airman. They were called Keen Detective Funnies. And we took a modernized Airman. We gave Mike the original cover. We said, we want our modernized Airman doing the same thing. Update the whole thing. And he did. And that's what he came up with.
That's fantastic.
It is amazing. There's when we keep scrolling down, you're going to see a picture of Mike and I together with it.
There's add-ons here, folks. You're just going to have to.
There's the Halloween mask.
Look at that Black Owl Halloween mask.
Then we took the Tom Morgan cover that was the homage to the Wilson puzzle, and we're going to sell you a puzzle.
You're the second person I've seen do a puzzle.
Nice.
For a comic campaign. So
nice.
It's still, and the first one people loved.
All the covers are available as 11 by 17 posters.
Oh, wow. So was this done on the last campaign?
Yes.
Damn it.
And everything on the last campaign is available on this one. So
because that Aparo tribute cover, I want that.
If you missed it, it's available here.
I'm going to get that Aparo tribute cover as a poster. That's got to go up on my wall.
So because we have a stretchy superhero, we're going to make a Stretch Armstrong action figure of him.
Yeah.
Do you want me to take your money now?
You've got masks, you've got action figures. Austin, these things take a lot of money to create because you can't just do a 5 or 10 production run of stuff like this. And you know, I mean, you can, but you pay out the wazoo for changing out the dies and everything in these machines. How are you going to? You're doing great on the campaign, but you're not doing great enough to sell a whole line of specially made Stretch Armstrongs.
I know.
Okay.
I got it under control, RJ.
I don't need to see your accounting. I'm just, it baffles me that it's actually happening. And I love that it is.
RJ,
if you can do it, other people can do it.
At the end of the day, for me, okay, if this is the only thing I ever do in the comic book world, I'm going to go out swinging.
You've lit all the fuses on the entire fireworks factory here.
Right.
So it's going to be one master bang. You've got more posters of the masters here.
Yep.
Individual characters.
Yep. Daryl Young did this set. The next set is Luke Dobb. They're both personal friends of mine. I love their style. I love the consistency from one character that they do to the next, whether it's Superman and Batman, Spider-Man and the Hulk, my characters, whatever, it's all consistent. And when I decided to do this project, I called them up and I said, listen, I don't want to do this without you guys because I want to hang my characters as done by you guys on my wall in my house. And they've been doing a spectacular job. These are the action figures that I'm custom making for people. There's a set of 4. They'll get Black Owl. These are all works in progress. Black Owl, Airman, Plymo, and Arrow. Plymo is going to come with 3 different heads, as you see right there.
That's amazing. I love this spring head here.
Right?
Just stickers.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And all of these add-ons, these are all add-ons from Kickstarter #1. So stickers, buttons, posters, shirts, you name it. Trading cards. There's your poster.
There's the posters from the first one. Oh my gosh. Oh,
that's a special Art Baltazar poster.
Yeah. You've got the t-shirts.
Yeah.
More posters.
Yeah.
More posters. Okay, so this is going to be the Get the Masters poster or your, what's the name of your hero team? Do you have a team name?
It'll be announced eventually.
Okay.
I don't want to give it away.
It'd be the Powers Group, I'm sure, because it'd be
it's not that big of a deal to say it, but you know,
hold on to it. Yeah.
One of the plans is in the book, say, hey, we're kind of good as a team. Maybe we should give ourselves a name.
I like the idea, but
yeah.
you get the superhero team on one side, you get the Masters on the other. You
right. They're all facing each other, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that. I love that.
Yeah.
Here are the action figures of the Masters themselves. We've talked about most of them. The 2 we didn't talk about were Panorama and Monsieur Petit Renard. Little Fox, Mr. Little Fox.
Mr. Little Fox. So these guys will be in issues 4, both in issue 4. Panorama is inspired by the wonderful black and white photographer Ansel Adams.
Right.
And Mr. Little Fox over here is inspired by the famous French artist Toulouse-Lautrec. He's most famous for doing the art for the posters of the Moulin Rouge in France, in Paris. Now, of course, with Panorama, and we were going to have Val Merrick as a guest tonight, but unfortunately had some technical difficulties. He has done a ton of work with the Panorama character. And Panorama has a magic camera that when he uses it on you, it sucks you into his camera. And now you're stuck in this black and white world of nature, mountains, animals, babbling brooks, trees, whatever, just kind of like the scenic stuff that Ansel Adams took photos of.
At least you're stuck in a pretty place.
Right. But if you're in the middle of the wilderness, it might not be so safe.
This is true.
Now, Mr. Little Fox over here, his chapter is drawn by Alan Weiss. And his whole thing is he's a failed artist. He's terrible. He's just awful. And one day at the Moulin Rouge, he was like, crying in his beer. And one of the dancers there took him under his wing. She felt sorry for him. And she reveals to him in his Who's Who story, his origin story, that she is indeed a double agent, like a secret agent. And she trains him and teaches him how to be a master assassin. And he becomes a master assassin. So he can't paint worth a lick, but boy, he can figure out all kinds of ways to kill you. He's so unassuming. He's 4'8" tall. Who would think he would be the badassest guy in the place?
Yeah, he will take you out hard.
Yes, he will.
All right. You're going to have more T-shirts that are already unlocked. They got unlocked at the 6,000 stretch goal. So these are available for $30.
Yep.
More the buttons.
Yep. Those are free once we hit 7,500.
And then these are more the pages inside. When you say Who's pages, by the way, folks, when he says that, if you read the Who's Who DC book, and I've got the omnibus over there on my shelf, the big, thick, killer intruder book. They're doing it exactly like that. The same style.
That's great.
This is one of the hostess ads.
The amazingly talented Dakota Alexander did all of the Who's Who pages. I haven't had a chance to mention him yet, but I'm mentioning him now. He goes by Drums of the Serpent on Instagram and just Dakota Alexander on Facebook. His work is absolutely fantastic. He's one of the first people I approached to work on this. The hostess ads here, that's Mort Todd 100%, and over here is Joe Woes on his maze. That's Plymo. It's hard to see him because he's covered up a little bit.
Yeah, but I figured it out from the hand.
We've got a fun one with Black Owl holding his cape open, and the maze is in his cape, and the tagline is "Help Black Owl find the keys to the Owlmobile."
Because they're hidden in a pocket in his cape.
Because he's lost his keys. I
love it. I love all of it. Here you are with all your favorite artists who have joined you on this.
Well, these are the fan photos that I just took this past weekend. I was at a couple of cons.
Oh, okay. So I jumped the gun.
That's okay.
Yeah, customers. These are customers.
These are happy customers. Very pleased.
How was the con you were at? I mean, are they well populated again?
Oh yeah, for the most part they are. One was a little bit light when it came to the crowd, but I think that was because it just wasn't promoted properly. It was the first time they were having it. You live and you learn.
Oh yeah, first time con they have a lot of lessons to learn to get it out there.
Correct.
So I'm trying to get down to where it is you and the artist. I know that's down here somewhere.
It's coming.
If you took a picture with everybody who bought a book, we could be here for a while.
Well, we're about there. There's Art Baltazar, and there you can see the old tribute ad to the Migos.
Yes, I remember that. Oh, this is I'm being sledgehammered by nostalgia.
Yeah, that's Ron Wilson, Joe Rubenstein. That's Luke Dobb. That was at C2E2.
Gives you a size of the scale of these posters here, folks.
Yeah, they're 11 by 17. They're big. That is Al Saviuk, one of the man. You look up Salt of the Earth in the dictionary. There's a picture of Al.
Yeah, his Superman stuff and his Spider-Man stuff.
His Spider-Man stuff, he is so under-recognized when it comes to Spider-Man. He has worked on some form of Spider-Man for, I want to say, the last 35 years. He penciled Web of Spider-Man for at least 10. A lot of that was inked by Keith Williams, who's also contributing to the Masters. And then for, I think, about 20 years, up until the time Stan Lee passed away, he did the Spider-Man dailies in the newspaper.
Yeah, I know I've seen his name all over the place. I'm trying to think where else it was, but for some reason I want to think he did one of the Superman Spider-Man crossovers, but I could be completely wrong.
There's no doubt. I think the first thing he ever did was Green Lantern for DC. That's Bob Almond.
Bob Almond.
Wonderful a guy, wonderful inker. He inked all of Tom Morgan's pages beautifully. That's, of course, Al Milgrom.
Yeah.
Al has been inking Al Saviuk's pages. He inked a bunch of Greg LaRoque's pages. Just a magnificent job. And here's another thing that Al did that I haven't shown here yet. He recreated his Avengers David Letterman cover with My Superheroes. And he aged David Letterman to look like he's, 70 years old, like he's, it's like today.
With the Santa Claus beard and everything.
Correct.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
You're making it hard to pick covers, Austin. Because
pick them all. Do the all in, and you get everything, man.
You've got to. You
got to
go all in
for you. That's Andrew Peepoy. Now, Andrew, he has had the distinction of inking not only Alan Weiss on this project, not only Mike Gustovich on this project, not only Joe Staten on this project, but also Ramona Fradon. I mean, that's a Mount Rushmore of artists of the Bronze Age.
That's you might as well, say here's a Kirby page while you're at it. Just finish things off.
Right. Here's some Ditko.
Yeah.
Here's my good friend Daryl Young with the work that he did for me.
And there's Ramona.
Right. We had to Photoshop that cover there because she didn't have it with her. But that's what she did. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, there's Mike Grell and myself.
I haven't talked to Mike in a while. He's been a few years. I saw him on a show recently, so I know he's still kicking around.
Oh yeah, I think he lives down in Mississippi, and then I think he also lives in northern Wisconsin in the summer.
Yeah, I know about the northern Wisconsin one. I didn't know he was a snowbird.
I believe so. There's Stephen Butler. You know what? I think Mike might live near the border of Mississippi and Alabama. I know Stephen Butler's an Alabama guy. There's Bart Sears.
And then,
if you click play, you'll see the 3D rendering of the Black Owl mask. It's right next to a Ben Cooper Spider-Man mask.
For reference, yeah, okay. You gonna go all out and staple the rubber band strap?
Heck yeah!
All right. I expect a flame retardant plastic onesie in there. I've worn these Ben Cooper things when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, man.
It's the cool thing about, well, it wasn't cool when you were a kid, but not to me. Like if you wore a Superman costume, it was like you had the Superman mask, and then it actually said Superman on the front of it.
Right. I always hated that.
I did too. It's like, no, just an S. Everybody knows who it is.
I remember when I was a little boy, I was trick-or-treating. It had to be 1973, maybe. I was probably 4 years old. And I remember we were trick-or-treating in my old neighborhood, and there was a little boy who was trick-or-treating in the same Spider-Man costume I had. And I remember being really angry. I'm like, why is that kid Spider-Man? I'm Spider-Man. Like I was, I'm the only one who could be Spider-Man.
Oh, if only there were a picture that your parents had taken of the two of you pointing at each other and facing off.
Right. That would have been cool.
Of course, you didn't know about memes back then, guys. It was
No.
still coming. I have no idea what this is, but it's beautiful. I know what this is, but this is
Those are the action figures. Work in progress pictures.
Yeah, this is more detailed than the previous work in progress pictures we saw further up.
Right.
Look at the gold on that mask, folks. This is Airman's got more to go, but on his body.
They all do, but you know what their costumes look like. People know the quality of my work from looking at the villains and knowing my body of work for 25 years. They know what they're going to get. They're going to get good stuff.
Risks and challenges? No risk. You're going to get good stuff, like Austin just said there. I did not speak out loud the number of backers that were here, but I think it was 142 when we started. Guys, in the chat, come on. I don't know what to tell you if you're not backing this one, because this one's grabbing you by the throat and demanding your wallet.
Who do we have in chat that you know?
Oh, well, we have. It's been a funny chat tonight, but we started off with Darren Wagner's out here. Bow, yes, Darren, we appreciate you popping in. Mike Walters has already gone over to his show because he does the. So Mike does niche news on Monday through Thursday on the mic stand, and then on Friday nights, and sometimes I join him for this. I'm on a rotating schedule of co-stars. He goes back to the golden age, and we've been reading, famous funnies and crack comics. And we're doing them all in order, and we're like doing the voices and commenting on what we see. So yeah, when you talk about some of these books, we're coming up on Plymo and Black Owl and Airman. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Captain Finity, you're out there. Got some folks who are watching from Twitch asking if we had an OnlyFans for some reason. I don't know why. Twitch is a funny place. JR Extra, I know you need the digital copies. This is the digital copies you need to get. Woody is out there in the chat. And of course, Pops. Pops says, Pops was there. I watched your interview that you embedded here earlier today, which was why I knew to, put that Spider-Man poster out there. I'm like, oh, he's going to mention that. I'm going to be ready for it. Yeah. You did send me these other pictures here that Val was working on, I think.
Yeah, Val Merrick. These are coming up in issue 4 and these aren't necessarily in order, but you could see Panorama is using his camera on the Black Owl and Flyman. Flyman is our Atom-like character. And there's the page of the Black Owl speeding away. His girlfriend's on the phone with him. And then he gets a call from Barney Dunn, who is his best friend, who's also the newspaper reporter at the News Star. He'd be the guy that we would feature in the, Night Stalker type book.
Yeah, there was a guy at Marvel that he's reminding me of, and I can't remember his name. And he was in a lot of Daredevil. He was the.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Ben somebody. Almost said Ben Reilly, but that's not it.
No. Oh my God, I can see his face. Joey Pantoliano played him in the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck.
Exactly.
Oh my God. I got to look it up.
Who is the Daily Bugle Night Beat? Night Beat. That's like the radio show Night Beat. He was kind of like that.
What the heck is his name?
Urich.
Ben Urich.
Ben Urich. Wow.
I actually made a custom action figure of him, believe it or not.
Oh, geez. Sweet.
How crazy. That was a deep dive for a custom action figure of Ben Urich.
Speaking of classic characters, I instantly recognize Bud Abbott and Lou Costello doing the security guard work here.
Are you like messing with me? That's Laurel and Hardy.
I'll have to see a bigger picture. As Laurel and Hardy, okay. You know what? You're right, because the thinner character Bud Abbott would not slouch like that, and
right,
and Stan Laurel would.
Right. And if you want to see something cool, if you go back here, no, you were at the right place. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
If you look in the lower left corner, that's the painting that Panorama is looking to steal. Do you know who that is as the cowboy?
I have no clue.
That's Val Merrick.
Self-portrait.
Every artist who has a chapter did a self-portrait for the painting that each villain is going to steal.
Oh, now that is a cool Easter egg.
Right.
And here I thought I was being, 5 different kinds of clever when I made the picture for this and said, I'll make Austin and Val the portraits that are in the museum. Yeah, you guys are already 5 leagues ahead of me on that one.
Right. So this is a page from the Panorama origin story that we're going to include in a separate book called Bring on the Masters. And this is our homage to The Killing Joke.
Okay.
So we put Panorama there in place of the Joker. We put his box camera up to his face, and he's sucking in 5 different people into his camera to show you his power.
I dig it. Now, who's drawing this page?
Oh, Val Merrick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's more detailed than the pages over here.
It's a little different, yeah.
And folks, if it gets a little trippy with the stuff that Val's doing, remember this is the guy who co-created Howard the Duck.
That is correct.
He's the master of trippy in comics.
Yeah. And this is our Val Merrick cover for issue number 4.
Amazing. This is, you're going to want all of these people. I want all of these and the collected version. So
yeah.
Here's Flyman riding a hawk because he shrunk down.
Pretty cool, right?
Now, is this a tribute cover to anything prior, or is this all original?
That's an original Val Merrick.
That's beautiful. Austin, you're doing God's work for comics fans here.
Well, hopefully it's reflected in the money we raise on this Kickstarter. So
yeah. Now about that, you are funded. But you're at 6,300. You were at 28 something on number 1. Are you? And this is for 2 books,
right?
So are you? You got 15 days to go, but are you antsy? Are you tracking where you thought you'd be right now?
No, I thought we'd be a little higher, but you know what? We had the Thanksgiving Day weekend, and nobody was doing anything on Kickstarter. I was watching a bunch of different stuff on Kickstarter over Thanksgiving weekend, and things just started picking up again yesterday. I'm not concerned about it. This is a great project. People know it's a great project. They're going to back it. A lot of people give early. A lot of people give late.
Yeah.
And it
especially with Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Indiegogo's a little bit more stable throughout the whole process because they take your money when you give it to them.
Right.
That's why I wait on Kickstarters because I'll forget.
And I haven't put the pedal to the metal yet with the marketing that I have, ready to go. And, we've got so much social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter, Instagram. We have our email lists. We have our, direct to Kickstarter backer lists. There's so many ways to advertise and market. I just started going to the fans of the actual artists that inspired the villains. I just started that today with that post in the Keith Haring group. So, there's all kinds of stuff that, everything is going to come out in the end. I'm very excited about it.
Now, are any of these artists still around? Is Keith Haring around?
No, they've all passed. Keith Haring, unfortunately, died in 1990. He was only 30. He died complications due to AIDS, unfortunately.
Because it would have been cool to, I knew that, Toulouse-Lautrec was gone and
right.
These others, but I didn't know about him, and I thought maybe it would have been cool if one of them would have at least acknowledged the work. Said, "Hey, look, I'm a comic book villain now."
It would be awesome. But Herring died, I think it was 1990. Dolly, I think, died in 88 or 89. And, Toulouse-Lautrec, 100 years ago, and Magritte 60 years ago or 50 years ago, and Ansel Adams the same way.
All right. Well, Austin, I'm just gonna end it here because I don't know what else I could talk about except that I would just keep talking and keep looking. The colors on this, the inks on this, the pencils, everything about this is everything that I loved when I got into comics.
Right. I appreciate that. That's good. You're the guy that I'm looking to appeal to. Well, again, I can't say this enough. This is my love letter to the Bronze Age of comics.
I will help you push this as much as I can in my social medias. If you want to come back in 2 weeks before this thing kicks off and give it that extra push, we're here for you.
Love it. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll do better on that night than we did tonight.
A lot of people go to these videos the next day or the day after, and
we get a lot of replay. And by the way, folks, if you're doing that, the link is right below the video. Just
right.
click it.
Right.
It'll take you right to the Kickstarter.
Again, I recommend to people, and I know I'm looking to raise money, but honestly, the all-in package, man, oh man, you get everything, absolutely everything, every action figure, every trading card, every button, every comic book, the record that we're doing, the Halloween mask. We're doing Slurpee cups for the next Kickstarter. We're doing a metal lunchbox for the next Kickstarter. We've got tribute covers to the giant size X-Men that Bob Budiansky is doing for us. We've got a tribute to a Micronauts cover that Butch Guice is doing for us.
Man, so, you're okay. So let me ask you this. Okay, so you got the all-in thing. That's all in the entire run. That's including everything. The next campaign. So correct. If you come up with something that's not in the campaign yet, you have some brainstorm, it's in there.
Correct.
It's grandfathered in.
Right.
So
right. So if you came in right now to do the all in, you're still getting all in from Kickstarter 1.
Oh, yeah.
So if we need to reprint some posters or we're going to do it.
Guys, that's the biggest deal on there.
It is. I think for $2,000, that's a steal.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we have 4 or 5 guys who've already done it.
A couple more of those, and you'd be set.
Right. A couple more of those would be great. So, our fingers are crossed. I'm very confident we're gonna do it. The last Kickstarter, we had 550 backers. So far, only 150 have backed this one. So I still have 400 people I need to talk to.
Yes, I agree.
They might be a little busy, RJ, with the holiday and everything,
This is a rough time to run a crowdfunder. I've talked to a lot of people about that. I mean, this is holiday shopping season.
Sure. Well, and we ran the last Kickstarter in December of last year. It ran from like December 3rd to January 3rd, and we did pretty good. There were no complaints.
Yeah.
So, what I think are the best deals besides the all in is the art. You're not only getting like an original piece of art by somebody who's amazing. I mean, throw a dart at one of those, you're going to hit somebody who's a legend. But you also get You also get all the comic books with it. We're not making you pay any more money for the comic books.
Yeah, because a lot of tiers on campaigns, you're like, hey, I'm getting the original art. You're not getting the comic book on this one, guys. This is just the art you're buying.
Right.
You're giving them the comic book when they buy the art tiers.
Right. Absolutely.
So, get one of those. Somebody go out there and get those original covers, and then you get the actual book, and you hang them side by side and say, look, see, original published. That's what I would do.
Absolutely.
All right. Austin, thank you so much for taking the time to come talk with us tonight. You said you could possibly be here an hour and a half. I'm like, we wrap up in an hour all the time. Here we are, hour 34 minutes in. You've got places to be. I'm going to let you get to them. And like I said, come back anytime, please do. And we'll, maybe Val will have technical issues wrapped up by then. We can have a 3-way chat on this kind of thing.
That'd be great.
All right. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight. We do appreciate your presence.
Thanks, everybody.
And, sharing it out so people can see it. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night.